Hi everyone, Bernard here with the latest Citizen vlog, and it's sadly another tribute vlog to another ex-City player who's with City for a couple of years. I've got an image from the Reading site there, a gentleman called, and it's obviously, I'm sorry to say a name I'd forgotten, Dave Bacuzzi, obviously Italian father. He played for City during 1964 to 66 seasons, which obviously I started watching City in 1965-66. So that was my first season when City lifted the second division title, and obviously Dave Bacuzzi was part of that squad, and he joined obviously in 24th of April 1964 to £25,000, which wasn't a mean amount of money from Arsenal. Obviously, he was born 12th of October 1940, and he obviously died in 21st of April 2020. So he was 79 years old. Unfortunately, he died from the COVID-19 virus in Dublin, in St Vincent's Hospital in Dublin. Sadly passed away. So all our commiserations and obviously best wishes and love to all his family and friends, certainly from me, and I'm sure from all City fans. And even like me, who, as I said, I did actually get to watch Dave, even though, please forgive me, I can't. Obviously, he doesn't ultimately spring to mind when you think of number twos for City, which he played most of his time with City at number two. Obviously, you think of my first real impression was Tony Buck, but obviously that was a Joe Mercer thing, which we'll talk about in a second anyway. But yeah, Dave Bacuzzi, who joined. His dad was from Milan originally, and actually played for Fulham, a very well-known player for Fulham, and actually played for England as well. His dad had played for England mainly during the war years, I think. So he had a good pedigree, didn't he, Dave Bacuzzi? Yeah, he signed in August 1964. In August 64. Sorry, April 64, and he played his first game in August 64. Yeah, on the 26th of August 1964, he made his debut with a 6-0 win against Leyton Orient that season, which was to prove a successful season for City. Interestingly enough, we played Leyton Orient 5 days later. And even though he's not actually featured in the City team in the Leyton Orient programme, I've got a copy of the programme here from that era. He's not actually featured in the team as such, but he actually is in the pen pictures. He's actually mentioned in the pen pictures. David Bacuzzi, born Hendon, son of the famous football player Joe Bacuzzi, was signed for a large fee this year from Arsenal after they had signed Don Howe. So obviously, although he wasn't featured in the team, because he took over from Bobby Kennedy, another name I was quite familiar with. And he'll come back again later in this very short vlog. So he took over from Bobby Kennedy. So even though he wasn't the team, he did get into the pen pictures. Well, that was quite unusual, because it's normal that season, his first season with City was the 64-65 season, where we didn't do too well. I think we finished 11th that season, but it was pretty much a regular in the team. If you look at the team there, Bacuzzi at number two, obviously Alan Ogley in goal, some known names there, or Wagstaff, Neil Young, Alan Oakes, obviously. So he was pretty much a regular. He only missed a handful against one of the most appearances in that season, 64-65. I think he played 44 games in all competitions. The only guy who matched him for playing in that 64-65 season was obviously the legendary Alan Oakes. It was the only guy who actually managed his appearances. And there's actually a little look here from the programme from playing Coventry City in April 1965 towards the end of the season. It's showing you appearances and the goal scorers. And obviously it's showing you Bacuzzi and Oakes, top two there. Obviously, went on to make 40 odd appearances, but it was 30 odd at that time. Obviously, the season hadn't finished, so quite interesting that he matched Alan Oakes for playing that season. And I think our manager at the time was George Poyser. Yeah, George Poyser. Obviously, Joe Mercer took over for the 65-66 season. So obviously that was our promotion winning season. Obviously the 64-65 we finished 11th, 65-66 we finished top of the heap. And he didn't play as many games that season, probably between 10 and 15 games that season. But Joe Mercer didn't really I don't think Joe Mercer fancied him as the right back. He brought Bobby Kennedy back, believe it or not, in 65-66. So even though he'd been almost an ever-present in the 64-65 season, Dave Bacuzzi, for the 65-66 season, unfortunately, didn't play as many games, but he was there, and obviously he was doing a job for City. And it actually ended up signing for Reading on the 9th of September 1966, so before City's first season back in the First Division, 66-67. He joined Reading, and I think he went on to play well over 100 games for them. And it's quite interesting because in our league-winning season, 1967-68, we actually played Reading. So, and what was interesting in this, if you look at the programme, there's a little note inside about Dave. It says, "We give a warm welcome to Reading, one of the many attractive sides of the Third Division, who are managed by the great ex-player Roy Bentley. In their party, if he has won his fitness fight, he had been injured, will be ex-City fullback Dave Bacuzzi, who has been delighting fans in the Berkshire town with some first-class performances. He will be hoping to go home in triumph. He may just be disappointed." So obviously they weren't very friendly. But if you look at the team, there you go. You got Dave Bacuzzi in the team as well to play against City. And 67, you look at the City team, it's getting a more familiar look at it as well, isn't it, with the team. You look at the City players, it's getting, obviously this is the Championship, this is the First Division title winning season, 67-68. So it's getting a more familiar feel, that team. But interestingly enough, the pen pictures are, our visitors. He actually isn't featured. They don't actually feature Dave Bacuzzi in it. So even though he did get a mention in the forward, if you like, he's not actually mentioned. I mean, I found that very, very strange. I've double checked it just to find, and but there's like 11 names. Obviously, not the full squad, but Dave Bacuzzi doesn't get a mention. And Third Division Reading actually drew that 0-0 with City. I mean, going for the title, we're doing quite well by January. We're going for the title, but strangely enough, we did obviously in the replay at Reading. Some days later, they were obviously very buoyant that they'd actually got the draw at City. But as you can see, again, got Dave Bacuzzi in the Reading team there to play. Obviously, Ken Mullen, Tony Buck, Glimpardo, Mike Doyle, Heslop, Oakes, Lee, Bell, Summerby, Young, Coleman. I mean, that's the sort of team I can sort of announce myself. Obviously, I'll add our Harry Dowd to that as well. You're talking the classic team, the 68-69 team as well, the FA Cup. So, but there you go. You see, we've got Dave Bacuzzi playing the replay. And interestingly enough, even though they obviously drew 0-0 at Main Road, we actually won that replay 7-0 at Reading. So I think Dave got a bit of a battering that day in defence for Reading anyway. But yeah, that's Dave Bacuzzi. He went on to Ireland and he managed Cork Hibernians and also became their manager, and I think he managed another couple of clubs in Ireland as well. Yeah, so his total playing career, he spent 1958 to 64 with Arsenal, 64-66 with City, 66 to 1970 with Reading, and obviously 70 to 74 with Cork Hibernians also as a manager. So in all, I think he made 56 appearances plus one as sub for City, 2 FA Cup, 1 League Cup. But sadly didn't score any goals. I think he scored a goal for Reading from what I can see in their thing, Dave Bacuzzi. But quite interesting, obviously, that Joe Mercer didn't fancy him that second season. He must have had a look at him and thought he didn't quite fit. And obviously, strangely enough, brought Bobby Kennedy back. So that was quite interesting until, of course, Tony Buck arrived. But yeah, our condolences. Dave Bacuzzi, as I say, it's a name when I'd heard he'd sadly passed away. It was a name that wasn't overly familiar with him, but then I saw what years he played for City, so it made me have a quick look back and see what info, because I don't have many programmes from that era. Obviously, it's obviously from the first season of following City 65-66. I don't think my dad bought me a programme. And it wasn't until the 70s I started to avidly collect. So I picked one or two up over the years, but it's nice to see little things of Dave Bacuzzi there. That was a little tribute from Reading in their little obituary. He was virtually never present. They do go on to say he was virtually never present under manager Roy Bentley. He actually captained Reading in 68-69, and he settled in Ireland. Sadly, where he passed away on the 21st of April 2020 from the terrible COVID-19 virus. So our condolences anyway. So thanks for joining me for that. A little look back at a gentleman, and if you didn't, obviously you know a little bit more about him now and his time with City. And as I say, I would have seen him in action, but obviously my memory from 6 and 7 year old lad who loved Main Road and his first images of Main Road sitting in the Platt Lane. I would have sat in the Platt Lane watching my Mr. Bacuzzi played, but I can't honestly remember any specifics. But it was nice for me to look back as well and look back at the career he had with City. Anyway, thanks for watching this. Please join me again for something very similar in the near future. This is Bernard saying, whatever you're going to do the rest of the day, have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your family. Let's all look after each other at these trying times. Bernard saying, goodbye for now. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.